This is Base Hit Ball 4.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Base Hit Ball 4. My name is Glenn Denigris alongside Tyler Blumenstick, Alex Cashman, and Scott Roswald. It was a big week in Major League Baseball. We're approaching the trade deadline. The Yankees haven't played because of COVID and the rain down in Atlanta. The Astros got swept by the Padres, and the Dodgers keep beating everyone. But we're going to start with those Slam Diego Padres who are winning every single day. They've won 7 straight. They are 4 games behind the Los Angeles Dodgers, who just seem to be just a juggernaut in the NL West. But, last week we kicked it off with the Padres as well as a little bit of a trend with the Grand Slam 3-0 Tatis kind of controversy, but they have continued that, and they're not just this cute story anymore. Now they're a legitimate, it seems, contender in Major League Baseball. The only problem for them is that they play in the same division as the Los Angeles Dodgers. They swept the Astros. They look really good doing it. They hit a grand slam seemingly every day. Machado's contributing. Hosmer's contributing. Obviously, Tatis is a top 5 player in Major League Baseball. They're getting pretty good pitching to kind of allow their bats to take over at the end of the game. Guys, are we buying stock in the San Diego Padres, or do you think this is just a 3-week kind of hot streak?
Pump the brakes.
What do you mean pump the brakes?
I love Fernando Tatis Jr. and I can't say that on the air, but I love Fernando Tatis Jr. I do. I think he's so cool. He's so much fun to watch. I can't sit here and tell you he's a top 5 player in the league right now. I think he's playing like a top 5 player in the league, but I can't sit here and tell you that I think that as of right now, he's a top 5 player in MLB. I think it's too early. You got guys like Charlie Blackmon who's hitting over 400. I don't know if he's still hitting over 500, but he's at least hitting over 400. He's not the best hitter in baseball, but he's hot. I don't know. Listen, like I said, I love Tatis, but he's not a top 5 player in the league yet. He will be, but he's not yet.
He's leading the league in home runs with 12. He's leading the league in RBIs. He's playing stellar defense. And maybe he's not top 5 overall in terms of going back years and what people have done over their careers.
That's
with
what I'm
Bellinger.
saying. I think he will
What
be.
Bellinger has accomplished over his 3-4 years, what Trout has done over the last 10. I totally understand where you're coming from. But right now in this 2020 pandemic season, he's top 5 in my opinion right now. He's fantastic. He's carrying this Padres team. Talk about
there's not 5 other guys that you take on your team before him.
To build a
right
team
now,
for the future, I would
today.
say no.
Well, my initial question is buying stock. Are we buying stock in the Padres going forward, not just for the rest of this season, but do you think this is something that's sustainable, that it can eventually, over the course of a normal 162, compete with the Dodgers? Because over the last 7-8 years, the Dodgers have kind of just won the division by default because there wasn't a lot of competition. Are the Padres finally breaking ground into that Dodgers echelon? Maybe not this year, maybe not catching them this year, but 21 and 22. That's my question.
I'll buy a few shares. I'm not going all in on the Padres. I think with the way that the season is set up this year, they obviously have a great chance. They've set themselves up very well because there's only a few teams in the National League that actually have a winning record. So they've put themselves in a great spot. They're not going to win the division. The Dodgers are winning that division. So they've put themselves in a great spot for that second spot guaranteed, or one of those 2 wild cards. As you mentioned, Tatis is phenomenal. They have great position players. Just the question is starting rotation depth, I would say, for them. Dinelson Lamet has been really, really good for them. And they got Kirby Yates closing it out. But depth-wise, pitching-wise, they're not anywhere close to one of the top teams in the National League.
And that surprises me too, because you look at like a team like the Rockies who play in a very hitter-friendly ballpark. If the Padres are the complete opposite. So like I think once they start actually getting better and really proving that they are a team kind of on the rise, I think it's going to attract more high-level talent. And to be completely honest with you, I would not be surprised if they get one of the top guys on the market in the offseason, like a Trevor Bauer or somebody like that.
Or even trade in the coming week.
Yeah, like they're not a cheap franchise. So like, I mean, they try to play everything smart contract wise.
They had that one off season where San Diego hosted the winter meetings. That was the winter meetings where they got, I believe, Shields. And I think they got Hosmer as well. They have a track
No,
record
they-
of going
and they
big in
got-
off seasons when they're
They
ready.
got Upton and Kemp
Yes.
at that time too, and Kimbrel, Craig Kimbrel. Yeah, they're an ownership that is willing to spend. I mean, if I was a player, it's a beautiful ballpark. I mean, it isn't a great hitters ballpark, but San Diego is a beautiful city. You have great weather all year round. I feel like it should be an attractive place to go, especially for a pitcher. You got a lot of space out there to, for leeway. So and with that ownership willing to spend, yeah, they could definitely continue to build upon what they have.
I think it's tough, but trying to get a star free agent there, knowing that the Dodgers are looming. Regardless how good the Padres are, the Dodgers are better, at least right now. I mean, the Dodgers are scary good. I don't know. I can't. As a free agent, I'm not sure I'm going to sign up to come in second place for the next 5 years. I mean,
yeah, but it doesn't seem much different than like back when the Giants had their big teams, between 5 and 10 years ago, when they were just really making pushes. It was a 2-horse race in that division. The Giants were better. I mean, they won a couple World Series in like the Tim Lincecum years, like around that time. But other than
the
that,
Giants
I don't understand.
the Giants had a better team than the Dodgers, and the Dodgers weren't as competitive. I mean, this Dodgers team is like, I don't know. I mean, there's no team in baseball better
I
than the
feel like
Dodgers.
during those years where the Giants were winning championships every other year, the 10, 2012, 2014, the Dodgers were still making the playoffs. And in most cases, the Dodgers were still winning the NL West. I believe that in 12 and 14, the Giants came out of the wild card game to end up winning the championships. But those Dodgers teams weren't the, as you say, Cash, that just powerhouse juggernaut team.
They weren't
And
as
I
good as
feel
they are
like-
now.
And I feel like, at least on paper and what they've built through their farm system, I feel like the Padres are on their way to pushing the Dodgers a little bit. I'm not saying in the next couple years they're going to take over the Dodgers, but if there's any team in the NL West that's going to challenge them over the next couple years right now, with the way they've built their team with their young talent and getting guys like a Machado and a Hosmer and a Yates, I think the Padres are a team that the Dodgers are going to have to worry about pretty soon.
I'm not saying it's a runaway. That's not my point. I'm just saying it'll be hard to attract a free agent to San Diego when you have the Dodgers looming, and you have the Rockies who somehow keep winning, and the Diamondbacks who aren't playing terrible. I mean, it's a tough division to play in. So, and they have to be willing to spend the money. They got Machado on a $300 million deal. They have
from the Dodgers.
Right. They have Hosmer on a pretty expensive deal, and they're going to have to pay Tatis. I don't know when, but
not till 2025 or 20.
Okay, so I take that back. So that was irrelevant,
but they could lock him up at any point.
Exactly, kind of like what the Braves did with Acuna and Albies. It's probably
is that a good contract?
I don't know. I don't think so. For
But
Acuna,
I
it's
guess
not. For the Braves, it's amazing. But I don't think Tatis is going to go down that road.
there's a lot of different variables for the Padres in terms of what Cash said with attracting free agents and who wants to come in second place to the Dodgers and then play a one-game playoff. If this expanded playoff continues into next couple years and going into the future where it's not a one-game thing and it's like more of a 3-game wildcard series, then I guess that would be more of an incentive for players to go to the Padres saying, listen, we might not win the division every year, but it's not going to be a one-game Hail Mary. So we'll see what happens with the Padres.
Help their cause there.
They're definitely electric. I mean,
at the end of the day, what matters is money. If they're willing to spend the money, they're going to get somebody.
And they're very exciting, and that's something that's attractive to free agents who want to go play somewhere. I mean, we're Yankee fans and Scott's a Phillies fans, but if there wasn't a Yankee game or a Philly game on, what's the third team? What's the second team that you would want to see play right now? And that's
Braves.
the Padres.
Oh, sorry.
I always like watching West games. Like I'll watch any like Diamondbacks game. I'll watch a Rockies game, like a Padres game. Like I love just sitting and watching like late night games to the point where the Central is kind of that like muddy area for me that I don't know. Not that I don't know much about the league, but it's either I know the East and who the Yankees play and who they're familiar with, and then I know the West only because 7:00 games end and 10:00 games come on, and it's kind of what you get accustomed to.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent a lot of time watching the Dodgers too the last few years because of my Laker connection, and I got a chance to go out to Dodger Stadium a few times, so it was pretty cool. So that kind of roped me in. I wouldn't consider myself a Dodger fan, but I like watching them play. I do like watching the Padres mainly because of Tatis. That dude's pretty good. But I do want to say something about Tatis because I saw this on Twitter from a few different people, and I want to make myself very clear. A lot of people were saying that the Yankees should trade for Fernando Tatis Jr. And let me say something. As much as I love the Yankees and as much as I love Fernando Tatis Jr., we don't need to combine everything. Let the kid have fun on the West Coast. I don't need him in pinstripes. I really don't. They're going to make him cut his hair, make him shave his beard. I don't need that. Keep him on the West Coast. We can
Also, the Yankees have other problems that they need to address.
We can admire
shortstop.
him from afar. I just want to make it very clear that just because somebody's good does not mean he needs to be in pinstripes. It doesn't always work out.
There's not a package in the world that the Yankees could offer to the Padres where they would trade him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it was even real. I'm just saying that people on Twitter were saying it. You know?
It's ridiculous. He's probably one of the most untradeable guys in the game.
I mean, he is probably the best homegrown player they've brought up since
he's not homegrown.
He's not homegrown. Where
they got him? They got him straight up for James Shields.
Yikes!
The Chicago White Sox traded Tatis to the Padres.
Shame on me for not doing research on that.
Well, the White Sox are doing okay too, though.
But at that point, it is kind of homegrown.
White Sox had a good series against the Cubs this weekend.
Guys hit the ball.
White Sox are a good team.
They hit 27 home runs, and what's the stat, Scott? 27 and 8?
27 home runs in a week in 7 games.
That's absurd. That's Yankee
MLB record. Yeah.
Kind of home run numbers.
They were just out there mashing the ball, which their lineup is built to do.
And right now
they're and Grandal.
They're in second place, so they have one of the wild card spots. They're tied in second place with Cleveland at 17 and 12. They're 2.5 games behind Minnesota. There's a lot of good baseball going on, especially in the American League. Scott made this point, and I want to get back to it about the National League. Only like 4 teams have 500 records. So we talked about in previous episodes when we discussed the trade deadline is if there's going to be, any activity on the trade deadline with every team being in it, seemingly 30 games into the shortened season. And there's a lot of rumblings now because of how bad the National League teams are. Like the Reds have been a massive disappointment. The Cleveland Indians, although in a playoff spot currently, are kind of down on Clevenger and Plesac. So in talks of the trade deadline, there's a possibility that some big names can be moved when a couple weeks ago we thought that was impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I was taking notes the other day. I think it was yesterday, and I was trying to just compile a bunch of stuff to put together for a trade deadline blog. And I mean, just the start of my notes, I had like Trevor Bauer's on there, Clevenger and Plesac, like you mentioned. Even coming from the Red Sox with Mitch Moreland, Kevin Pillar, Jackie Bradley. Like there's only a select few players on that Red Sox roster that I would keep off limits. Like those 3 are maybe like Benintendi,
Bogarts,
Devers, and Bogarts. That's literally it. There's nothing more. If you get the right package for JD Martinez, send him off. Like
because he could possibly opt out at the end of the year.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, Tyler? You wouldn't trade those players?
Those 3 players, Bogarts, Devers, and Benintendi are probably the only 3 players that I would not get rid of.
And then there's also guys that are young or guys that you just acquired, like a Verdugo or a
Verdugo,
Chavis.
same thing. Throw him in there as well.
I'm glad you brought this up because I was going to bring it up later in the episode. I read an article this morning. I think it was from Bleacher Report. I could be wrong. I'll double check it. That the Red Sox are shopping or should shop Bogarts, Benintendi, and JD Martinez.
JD Martinez for sure.
They could trade Martinez. I think they could.
That's fair.
Sell the Martinez trade.
Why send Bogarts anywhere? He's one of your studs.
I wouldn't at all.
And
Benintendi could probably go.
He's the face of the franchise.
I don't get it. I mean, listen, I don't know how much truth there was to this article, but that's what I read.
I think the guys for the Red Sox who you can trade are Bogarts, Devers,
Let me pull it up.
Chavis, and Verdugo. I think everyone else is fair game.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I don't know. And you move on to like the. Go ahead, Scott.
I was just the franchise ownership has basically made it pretty obvious. They're trying to cut as much money as possible and kind of start over. So most of those guys, and they already started with trading Hembry and Workman to the Phillies to help the Phillies boost up their bullpen. So they've already started that trend. And Matt Barnes is another guy in that bullpen that's most likely going to get traded as well.
So this says that the Diamondbacks are interested in trading for Bogarts.
I would be shocked if the Red Sox even
That's an
considered
interesting
trading
move,
Bogarts.
though. They already have Ketel Marte in there.
Who do the Diamondbacks have to offer for one of the top shortstops in the league?
They have pretty nice uniforms. I don't know if they could trade those.
They got a
Fair
pool
point.
as well.
They do have a pool.
Some more
Other-
arms. I mean, I think
Other
you can-
arms around the league, a guy like Lance Lynn in Texas, former Yankee.
Exactly.
He's been
The
solid.
Dodgers are interested in
more
Lance
than
Lynn.
solid.
The Dodgers are interested in Lance Lynn. That's what this article says as well.
I know the Yankees are interested in basically everyone, but Tyler read and I found it. The Walker rumors. I also seen rumors about Clevenger and Plesac. And I guess we'll talk about the Indians because they're in an interesting position because they're 17-12. They're 2.5 off the division lead. But the way their financials work out and the way their organization is run, they're not a team that's going to kind of break the bank and sign people. They already told their fans basically, hey, enjoy Lindor while we have him because he's not going to be around long. They're shopping Clevenger or Plesac and or Plesac. I don't think they'll trade Bieber. But if you're a Cleveland Indian fan and your team is 5 games over 500 and you know challenging the Twins for the division title, and are you furious that they're so open to selling when there's still a window that's kind of still open, at least a little bit?
They've had a window open for like the last 5 years, and they've been in this mode, like not as adamant as the front office has been this year. I guess that all started probably when they came out and said that they're not going to re-sign Lindor, or they're not going to pay $300 million for Lindor. But even before that, like while they were still kind of on the fence, you were getting the sense that like they were going to start trading Kluber, they were going to start trading Bauer, and which they ended up doing. They sent Kluber to Texas, Bauer to Cincinnati, but like I don't understand what their whole thing that they have going on is. Like I don't, it doesn't make sense to me because they have the guys to compete. You can argue that they're wasting Francisco Lindor. I mean, he already made one playoff appearance, one World Series appearance. Didn't end up paying off, obviously, but like I don't know, it's just weird. It freaks me out.
I think they're just an organization that knows that they're not going to be able to pay they're not going to be able to outbid another team.
Quite
So
sure.
they try and trade somebody to get as much value back as possible. They did the same thing last year with Bauer. They were in contention and they traded Bauer away to Cincinnati, and it's going to happen. And they traded Kluber in the offseason, just kind of chalking it up. They do have a ton of young arms. They had the Tristan McKenzie kid come up this week who looks like he's about 16 years old and struck out 10 guys in a phenomenal debut. But yeah, I think as a fan though of the Indians, I think it's just expected. It's Cleveland sports, one of the most tormented
I'd be so
cities.
angry because, you know, pitching wins championships. And the one thing that the Indians have is pitching. And their position players aren't scrubs either. I mean, it's a team that could go on a run. They were in the World Series 4 years ago. The next year, they had that 103 win regular season. They won 20,000 straight games during the summer. And then I guess they progressively kind of just declined because they lost to the Yankees in that ALDS. And they got swept the next year by the Astros in the first round. Didn't make the playoffs in 19. So it's just an underachieving franchise. And I feel like whenever you have a window, especially when you're a team that hasn't won since 1948, you got to take the risk. So I don't understand why they're not buyers and instead they're sellers. I don't understand.
This is a tough season to be buyers and or sellers. I mean, I guess in the Indians' case, it's for the future, or
It's
in
all
any
about
team's
team
case.
control. That's the thing. It's just getting something for a guy before they just go for nothing. Like I don't know. I know in the soccer world, that's like the most frustrating thing is not getting a transfer fee back. And it's kind of just the same concept, I guess. Like you don't want to lose a valuable player that doesn't want to re-sign with you when you can kind of just get prospects back.
But
and
it's
recoup
such a
farm system.
tough season to do that. Who's going to give up 4 or 5 prospects in a 60-game year?
And
That's a good
especially in a week from today, the whole thing can get shut down. And then
Yeah.
you gave up those prospects for nothing, especially if you get someone like Bauer who's a rental and has to be re-signed in the offseason.
I would not be surprised if Bauer doesn't leave Cincinnati. That dude looks like he's having fun in Cincy.
Yeah, but since he's underachieving, I mean, I picked them to win the division.
For now. But it's a
11 and
60 game year.
16.
Nothing. You can't base your free agency opinions on a 60. Not you. I'm saying as a free agent.
No, I'm saying in the trade market, he's available because Cincinnati's been so disappointing. I mean, I had them.
I understand that, but so Cincinnati is in the NL, right? And we just said that there's only 4 teams in the NL over 500, correct?
Yeah.
So they're going to make the playoffs.
Cincinnati is 11 and
6.
16. They're 7 games behind the Cubs.
Are they?
The Reds actually have the worst team batting average out of every single team in the MLB, sitting at 205. And this is a team that went out and got Nick Castellanos, who's actually been a really major contributor for them, and Mike Moustakas. I mean, the
Reds still have
lowest batting average in the league. When the league still has the Marlins and the Baltimore Orioles in it.
Oh, well, the Marlins are the best team in baseball right now, but over half the league's going to make the playoffs. So, I mean,
they're not one of those teams right now, though.
Yeah, as of now, no, but they got time. The Reds are going to make the playoffs.
Season's half over, Cash. I don't know if you noticed that.
I didn't notice that until you just said that, but I still think they have time.
Let's take a look at the National League.
You got to look half glass full.
In relation to
that's what it is.
In relation to the into the playoffs, Atlanta and Miami would be the representatives at the East, 1-2 in the division, 16 and 12 and 12 and 11. In the Central, it would be the Cubs and Cardinals at 18 and 10 and 10 and 8 respectively, and then the Western division would be the Dodgers at 22 and 8, and then San Diego at 18 and 12. Then those 2 other spots would go to, if I can do quick math in my head, the Mets would have
Colorado and San Francisco.
Yes, it would be Colorado and San Francisco.
So it would be 4 teams coming out of the NL West.
San Francisco would be the worst of those teams with a .467 winning percentage. The Reds have a .407 winning percentage. I mean, there's time for the Reds, but there's a lot of teams you got to. Yeah, time's running out. And you got to jump teams.
Can we talk about the Zach Plesac thing real quick?
Go ahead.
And just how they don't have listen to his stat line for this year so far. I know it's 3 games, 3 starts. But saying you don't have a spot in the starting rotation for a guy that's got a 1-1 record, a 1.29 ERA, over 21 innings, he's got 24 strikeouts and a WHIP of .66. How do you not have a spot for that guy in your starting rotation?
That's telling me that they're going to trade someone to make a spot for him in the week.
Yeah, but regardless, if
you're trying to make the playoffs, you got to do that now. No time to waste.
This is a guy that is pitching.
But we just went over that they're not trying to make the playoffs. They'd rather sell.
But in a year like this, but it's not like football where you're going to tank and get a draft pick. Teams still have an incentive to make the playoffs. Whether they just miss the playoffs or just make the playoffs. I mean, they're still.
I think they're trying to get as much as they can for a Clevenger. And then bring up.
But even with Clevenger in the rotation, is what I'm saying is there should be a spot for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're just punishing him for the COVID thing.
I did see a tweet. I forget who it was that, the reasoning behind the Clevenger being called up and Plesac being kept at the alternative site, that was Clevenger did kind of show some remorse and did apologize for breaking protocol, and that Plesac did try and make some excuses and didn't really seem apologetic about what he did.
Didn't he make a video in his car that was just terrible? It didn't seem remorseful at all.
I didn't see that, but
I think he posted on his Instagram story about from his car, saying excusing his behavior, basically.
Yeah. So from what I saw to that lines up. But I mean, we mentioned it in our group chat. I do think Clevenger's getting that chance so they can kind of audition him to teams that are interested. If teams like what they see and they get a good offer, they'll pull that trigger, and then Plesac might get that chance once, depending on what they get back for Clevenger. Maybe Plesac gets that opportunity to come back, but some guys on that team also were really unhappy with them. So who knows if they even want to take that chance and bring them back in.
So let's do kind of a fantasy kind of trade deadline, which is probably the most fun thing to do this time of year. Whenever the trade deadline comes over, is kind of put together these packages. If from a Yankees standpoint, Yankees who are percentage points ahead of the Rays in first place, but the Rays obviously last week swept the Yankees and basically look like a better and healthier team than the Yankees at the moment. And the Yankees do need that guy behind Cole. So let's use Clevenger as kind of the guy that they're going to get. What kind of package are you willing to give up for a Clevenger kind of guy?
Are you allowed to trade managers?
No, you can't trade managers.
I don't know what
You
your
can.
obsession is
You
with
can
hating
trade
Aaron Boone.
managers,
It makes
but not
no
in that
sense to me.
situation.
I really don't like Aaron Boone.
The Marlins traded for Ozzie Guillen. Is that how it went in the beginning? That's what happened.
Yeah.
The first year of the Miami Marlins.
Whatever. That's neither here nor there. I have a hot take. Bow, 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 bow. I think the Yankees need a reliever more than they need a starting pitcher.
I disagree, but go ahead. Tell me why.
Why? Well, Tommy Kahnle's out for a year. Britton is now hurt. Chapman is Chapman. He's fine. He's good. He's our closer, though, right? You have Chad Green, and that's the only person I trust in that bullpen. I don't trust Holder. I don't trust Ottavino. I don't trust Ottavino for anything. I don't trust Ottavino. Whatever. I'm not getting into an Ottavino tangent because I can't do it. But I think the Yankees seriously need a closer, big time. I mean, a reliever. Sorry, not a closer. I think they need a reliever big time.
Do you think they could get a reliever internally by having Schmidt or Garcia just throw fire out of the bullpen for this half season?
There has to be a reason as to why Clark Schmidt has not been called up.
Because he's not on the roster,
he's
they
not
say.
on the 40 man.
That's the problem. He's not on the 40-man. But then put him on the 40-man.
There's got to be some. I don't know. Listen, I'm going to trust Brian Cashman and the Yankees more than I trust myself in this situation. So I'm going to go with there's a reason why he's not being put on the 40-man, and I'm just going to trust the Yankees front office in that perspective. But I do think that they need a reliever.
So what reliever are you acquiring?
I haven't gotten that far. I don't know. I'm just
think
saying anyone but Hader. I hate that guy.
You're not getting Hader. I think if they pull something, I don't think it's a dire need in the bullpen, but I agree with you. I was going to say the same thing.
I think it definitely acquire someone. I'm not saying they don't need another reliever. I'm just saying I feel like the starting pitcher is more of a pressing issue.
I don't agree.
Okay, who is your game 2 starter?
Tanaka.
Who's your game 3?
Paxton, who's kind of figured it out. His last couple starts
has he?
He's hurt
Has he though?
He's on the IL.
Right, but you're talking about game 2 and 3 starter come playoff time, assuming he's healthy for the playoffs.
I mean, his last 2 starts both have come against the Rays, and he's been good for the most part, but he has that one inning in each start where he implodes, and it cost the Yankees the game. Wouldn't you want?
Hear me out here?
Go ahead.
So when the Yankees traded for Todd Frazier, David Robertson, and Tommy Kahnle at the deadline in, what was that, 18?
17.
17?
Mm-hmm.
I think they can pull a similar maneuver here, minus the position player. There are two guys in Kansas City, Greg Holland and Trevor Rosenthal. Both guys on minor league contracts. I think if you can swipe both of those guys, bolster that bullpen, take a flyer that one of those guys are locked down. I mean, we saw Trevor Rosenthal have the yips. I think it was last year, maybe. Greg Holland, same thing.
Out.
But they both figured it out and kind of
righted
their ships a little bit. What'd you say?
Both have been
How are they doing this year?
Good. They've both been good. Greg
Kansas
Holland.
City?
Rosenthal
Yeah, it's in Kansas City.
Rosenthal's pitched in 12 games this year as a 1.59 ERA, 11 and a third innings, 15 strikeouts.
Holland is
and
2-0
then
with a 3.6.
And he's pitched in big games. He closed out games for them when they won the World Series. The guy's been around the block since then, but he's got big game experience. He knows what it takes to.
And he obviously doesn't need to do
these.
He doesn't need to be 7, 8, 9.
No, he can be
that's the
6,
thing.
6,
Yeah.
7.
And minor league contracts ending at the end of this year. So these guys can ride off into the sunset in their mid-30s and do what they want to do. They can come win a championship in New York first.
I think that would be a good idea, worst case scenario, if a starter can. I still think a starter is the most important thing for the Yankees.
No, I think you can get both. It's just
I think
a matter of
you can get both, but how much are you willing to give up in a season like this? Because if
Well,
you
the
make
thing is,
2
like-
trades for a starter and those relievers in what you said, you're dipping into your farm system a lot. It adds up.
Well, I don't think it'd take much to get Holland and Rosenthal in the first place. But the thing is, like, we have Garrett Cole for years. We have Tanaka. When is he a free agent?
Next year.
After next year?
I believe.
I think.
No, he's a
We
free
have
agent this year.
Paxton.
They have to re-sign him. Both Paxton
Okay.
and Tanaka are free agents at the end of the year.
They're not going to
Okay.
re-sign Paxton, but they'll re-sign Tanaka.
I think so too.
I agree. But then you have that. You have Montgomery. You have
Yeah, Montgomery's pitched really well.
Yeah, but point is, you go and get Clevenger. He's not a free agent until 2023. He's still going through arbitration, even though he's 29. So then you'll have 4 guys in your rotation. If you re-sign Tanaka, you have Cole, Tanaka, Montgomery, now Clevenger. We have guys like Davey Garcia. We have Clark Schmidt waiting. We have other pitchers waiting to come up, but there's only one more spot. So the thing is, one of those guys can go in the Clevenger deal. It's going to open stuff up and be good.
I mean, one of the biggest
It's
problems
just-
for the
it's
Yankees
irritating.
last season, when push came to shove, they had to use an opener in an elimination game in Game 6 of the ALCS because in July they didn't get anyone.
We have
So they're
Severino. Hello, we have
they're-
Severino. I forgot about that.
they have Severino, but he's not pitching this year.
Oh, that's true this year. But I'm saying going forward, that's 5. You don't even need David Garcia anymore or Clark Schmidt. Like,
So
that's the thing.
I think the Yankees can't make the same mistake twice because they didn't get the starter last year to help them in the postseason this year. They thought Severino would come back and be the guy, and
I got a question,
he was
Glenn.
great in the playoffs. But I think
Got a question.
I think they need a
Seriously.
starter. I think there's starters to get. I think there's Clevenger you can get. I think Plesac's available, a Lance Lynn guy
Why-
if you want to bring it back, or a Bauer. Go ahead.
Why are we going to send prospects away for a starting pitcher we don't need?
They need a starting pitcher.
I don't agree. Listen, we gave up who for Paxton? It wasn't a lot, but
Justice
he was an ace.
Sheffield.
He was it's a huge prospect for an ace who's now our 3rd starter. Okay?
I wouldn't call James Paxton an ace.
He was at the time.
Well, he was Seattle's ace. Now they have Marco Gonzalez. Would you call him an ace?
Now, fair. But Paxton was a big name. And don't tell me you weren't. We were all very excited when he got here. He's supposed to be really good, and he's shown flashes of that. I don't think that you could spend more prospects on another starter.
Scott, I'll ask you because you're not a Yankee fan, and you could be straight. Who are you? Would you be confident behind Cole with Tanaka and Paxton in the playoffs?
No. I mean, Tanaka has turned it on in the postseason in the past. I know I've been a skeptic of him before. I remember calling for him to not make it onto a postseason roster one year, and he pitched great. I don't trust Paxton whatsoever.
Neither do
He already had the back injury going into the season, and now he has an elbow injury. Both are,
and he still
gonna
doesn't have his velocity back.
No, both are going to play a factor once October comes. Who knows how long he's going to be out? Is he going to be even ready to be pitching big innings for the Yankees in the postseason? I know I would be going out trying to find a starting pitcher, whether it is a Clevenger. Bauer would be obviously the huge splash, but I mean, Dylan Bundy's been great for the Angels. He's probably available. Lance Lynn has been great for the Rangers. I
Wasn't
even
great
saw
for the Yankees.
I saw another. I mean, it would be an absolute joke, but some people might be interested in Matt Harvey, who had a good start back with the Royals. I wouldn't go anywhere close to Matt Harvey, but there's guys out there that you could give up a minimal package for that can come in and play a role for the Yankees as that 3rd starter for moving forwards for them for this year, maybe next year. I don't think you can trust what they have going into the postseason.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I mean,
I think – oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ty.
no, I don't know. I think we could use one. I don't think we necessarily need it.
I think
But
that if you're going to
given
give
our
up
guys
prospects –
aren't healthy in the playoffs, I think we're going to need somebody else there to throw.
I think that if you're going to give up prospects, you need to get a reliever.
Yeah, but those don't command big packages.
You don't need
Like,
to. You don't need to give up prospects to get a reliever. The Phillies just got Brandon Workman, who's been one of the best relievers in baseball for the last couple of years, and Heath Hembry for a Nick Pivetta who's been miserable in the pros, and a mid-level prospect for
we
two
might be
good
sending
relievers.
Jay Happ back in a deal for all we know.
You don't
That'd
need
be
to give up
great.
big
I'd love to give up
prospects to get
J-Happ.
relievers.
J-Happ was
unless-
pissed today. I don't know if you guys saw this. J-Happ was like, "Oh, it's very clear why they're not pitching me all the like they're skipping starts and stuff like
Because
that."
he sucks.
No, he thinks it's because of the vesting options. If he pitches enough innings, he gets more money. But it's
You
not
know
because
what?
of it.
No. Listen to me right now. The Yankees have more money than God. That's not – he sucks. They're going out here trying to
His
win a
ERA is
World Series.
over 6.
Shut up. I'm speaking. Oh, sorry, you're agreeing with me. They're going out here trying to win a World Series in a 60-game season, and you're telling me they're trying to save a few bucks? If you pitched well, maybe you'd be on the mound. You dumb –
He has only gone past 5 innings in a start against the Red Sox, who's the worst team in the American League with the Angels.
What an idiot. What an idiot.
So in conclusion, I think the Yankees need a new starter. I think.
Where was that said? Was that on Twitter?
Yeah, it was on Twitter. I think Andy Martino tweeted it. I believe. I could be wrong. Or Brian Hoke, one of those guys.
You think he's trying to get traded?
I think so. I think he's out.
Get him the hell out.
I think he's a free agent at the end of the year too.
He is.
Cut him now.
I don't know.
He is not. He was good like when they first got him in 18, and then 19-20 have been disasters. But
I don't know.
Scott,
He's also 37, to be fair.
Phillies, they made the trade for Workman. Are they done dealing, or do they need more? Or is it a lost cause this year?
I don't think they're dead quite yet. There's still a chance they can make a run. They don't play anybody outside of the division for the next month. So they have a really good opportunity to make a move here and move up within the standings. Getting Workman and Hembry, great move. Both reliable relievers. Workman did get a blown save in his first appearance, but I don't blame it on him. I blame it on Hector Neris for being absolute hot garbage now. They could probably go get another reliever if they wanted to, but David Robertson apparently is close to being back. So if they can add him back into the bullpen, that would be huge for them. Hopefully Jose Alvarez comes back soon. I'll get into him a little bit later at the end of the show. And I did see something. It's a rumor, more speculation than anything, that they might be interested in Starling Marte, the center fielder for the Diamondbacks. Phillies could use some help out in center field. Roman Quinn and Adam Hazley are center fielders now. None of them are, world beaters. So if you get a Starling Marte, that would be nice. But they could do more. But if they sat here and did nothing, I don't think they're in a terrible spot.
Do you think that the bullpen is the sole thing that they need? Because they're 4 games back. They're 10-14, 4 games behind Atlanta. Do you think bullpen is what they are predominantly working on? Do you think they're working on a starter? You mentioned a center fielder. What do you think their biggest needs are?
It's just bullpen reliability. Nola and Wheeler have been great at the top of the rotation. Arrieta's been okay. And then if they can get a little more production out of Spencer Howard and Zach Eflin, that would help the rotation. They have one of the best lineups statistically in baseball. Harper and Real Muto are just absolutely carrying this team. Hoskins is getting hotter. McCutchen is hitting now. Scott Kingery is hitting the ball well. He's been hitting into some hard outs, so that's nice. Didi's been phenomenal at shortstop. And then Alec Boehm coming up for the minors has been really good as well. It's just reliability out of the pen, back end. They've had plenty of games where they've been up 3, 4, 5 runs and they've lost or they've made it close. Especially Sunday night, they won on a play at the plate because the bullpen struggled again. It's really just reliability out of the back end. So if they went out and got another reliever, that would be great to shore things up. But that's really what it comes down to for them at this point.
I'd be worried if I was a Phillies fan if they overpaid in a season like this. I mean, that's something I feel like every team that considers themselves a buyer needs to be cognizant of. How much prospects are worth it in a season like this? Is it worth giving up your top guy to basically try to win this year where it's 60 games and it can be shut down at any point? Who knows if we even finish the season? That's still up for debate. So I don't. What do you? How far are you guys willing to go in terms of the top 10 prospects on your team?
Not much. I give up a top 10 prospect if it's a guy that's under control for multiple years. I'm sure as hell not giving one up for a rental at this point. Like, I think the market for Trevor Bauer is going to be tough because he's going to be a free agent that's going to command a lot of money. And that's why I was happy with what they did with the Workman-Hembry trade is they gave up Pivetta, a guy who has one pitch. You can't have that as a major leaguer. And they gave up a mid-level prospect who people are high on, but he's a mid-level prospect. So I was happy with that trade because they didn't give up a lot and they got good pieces back. So if any team can do that, kind of give up mid-level stuff or a guy that's been in the majors that hasn't produced a lot but somebody else might still believe in, if you can make that kind of a trade, I think that's what we're going to see.
How about you, Tyler? As a Yankee fan, would you be willing to dangle a Schmidt, a Garcia, a Dominguez for any starter or reliever that can help them win the World Series this year? Would you be willing to give up those guys for a 2020 championship?
Yes, if it was for Trevor Bauer and there was an agreement on an extension within the deal. That's probably it, to be completely honest with you. I don't think we need anything else. I mean, I don't think there's anything else out there for us that would make our team better. I don't think any of the bullpen guys I mentioned before or bolstering the bullpen by that standard, I guess, would even command a top 10 prospect. Like, I don't know if there's even any relievers out there right now that are good enough to get that top 10 prospect. But yeah, like I said, if it's a guy like that where you can kind of get his word that you're going to lock him up or you lock him up right on the spot for a couple extra years, then yes. But other than that, I don't think so.
Cash, same thing?
No, I'm not giving up anybody because unless you can promise me a World Series, which you can't do ever. I mean, you've seen that. Like the Yankees have gone out and bought and, sold and whatever. And they did everything they can to put together a winning roster, and they just don't seem to win in the postseason. So keep the guys you have in your system. They should. This team is good enough to win a World Series. If they don't, that's a bigger problem. But I don't think you give up anyone in the minors for a rental or really anything, to be honest with you, my opinion.
All right, so moving on to a team that –
Except J Happ. Get him the hell out. I'm heated right now. I can't believe he said that.
Yeah. Try to bring it up while we have another discussion.
I found it. I found the tweet.
You found it? Oh, you want to read it?
He's a moron. He said, J. Happ thinks it's fairly clear why he hasn't had a regular starting schedule. Says reporters are smart. Alludes that that they can figure it out. Was asked if he thinks the looming vested option is what has the Yankees from creating a schedule for him. Listen to me. I'm not a big Aaron Boone fan, and that's pretty clear. But let me tell you one thing, okay? Aaron Boone isn't making his starting rotation schedule over a few bucks. What kind of idiot thinks otherwise?
Vesting option, I think that kicks in a whole third year. I don't think it's just a couple bucks.
Then cut him. I mean, they'll cut him. But they're not worried about that. They're trying to win a World Series.
Just let it out. You just let one out. It's a podcast. You can do it. Just let it out because I know it's killing you. But I don't know.
I'm losing it, man. That is ridiculous.
Former Philly.
It's also a completely different season because we're having cancellations.
Did you like him as a Philly?
Right.
He was good as a Philly. He helped them win a World Series.
Let me ask you a question.
World Series.
Sorry to cut you off, Scott, but I'm going to ask another question here. In what world are we going to make sure that Happ gets his innings in for a vested option so that Cole or in a world that Cole doesn't get a regular schedule? Your $300 million pitcher, he's not going to get a regular schedule, so we can get J.A. Happ to throw and give up 7 runs in 4 innings?
It also doesn't help that the Yankees never play. You can't pitch when there's no games played.
What an idiot.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
All right, so
Just
moving
weird,
on.
Go ahead. Let's move on.
No, go ahead. No, please.
Go.
Okay.
Go.
Moving on.
Go.
I want to talk about the Tampa Bay Rays because they're the biggest pain in the ass in my life right now. And there's a lot
I hate
of them.
them more than I hated the Red Sox.
I cannot stand this team. And it's amazing what they do year in and year out because they have no business being good. They play in a market that has very little fan base. They have a shitty stadium. but their ownership and their organization just finds these guys
And their
that play
manager
extremely
knows
well.
what he's
Kevin
doing.
Cash, exactly, Cash. Kevin Cash knows what he's doing. He knows how to squeeze every ounce of talent out of his guys. They develop these arms year in, year out, going back to when they made the World Series and lost to the Phillies in 08. They produce guys like Price and like Shields and like Garza and more recently like Glasnow and Snell. And they acquire a guy like Morton that any team could have had. They just make these savvy trades, and they compete with the Yankees, who are, the upper echelon of baseball. They have the highest payroll. They make the most money. They have probably the biggest fan base, and they're just this little pain in the ass for the Yankees. They have a legitimate shot at winning the division in opposed to the Yankees.
It cannot go unsaid that they make some of the best trades of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they traded Evan Longoria, and everyone thought they were crazy, and he's done absolutely nothing since he left. And they got a return for him, and they traded guys like Shields and guys like Chris Archer and
Price,
Carl Crawford, BJ Upton. You go down the list, and like, these guys play so well in Tampa. Then they trade them before they have to pay them, and they get all these pieces back. And now you're seeing the result of those pieces.
I mean, as you're talking, I'm thinking in my head, the Rays, what you just kind of said reminded me of one of those like very, very good college football programs. The player turnover is constant. Like every 4 years is a new roster, just like the Rays. Every few years, they just ship guys out and bring guys in, and every year they win. It's amazing.
So, I mean, I've never been to the Trop. I don't know if any of you guys have.
I have.
But one thing that I've heard is that there are not a lot of signs around the stadium or anything of a certain player. They don't market any of their players because of the amount of turnover.
No, they don't. It's a lot
serious.
of logos. It's a lot of logos, and there's one in the outfield when you go down the tunnel. There's like a cartoonish kind of thing, but it's guys like Tino Martinez who grew up in Tampa. It's guys like Don Zimmer who was in Tampa for a long time.
You have to.
So Yankee legends is what you're telling me.
Yeah, but they played for the Rays.
And I think,
and they're Tampa like residents.
In all seriousness, I think that part of the problem with their fan base is just that they don't market any players. We live in a time where a lot of people, which kills me, and I think it frustrates me more than anything, but a lot of people don't have favorite teams. They have favorite players. In all sports, it's not. I mean, you look at I'm a big Laker guy, so I'll say it. You look at like the Lakers fans now. Half of them are not Laker fans; they're LeBron fans, which makes me crazy because they didn't watch Chris Kaman take a nap on the bench. But you look at baseball, you got not as much, I guess, now that I'm saying it, but you got guys like I take it back. No, baseball doesn't have that, so I don't know why, but. I was going somewhere with that, and you have to trust that my idea was there and pure. But
they don't have the Tatis, they don't have the Trout, they don't have the Bellinger.
Who are they going to market? Blake Snell, a guy who pitches every 5 days.
Who's going to get traded real soon?
The team is the whole organization, the whole philosophy is pitching and starting pitching. It's hard to market starting pitching. As much as we love Cole and DeGrom and Buehler and Kershaw, they pitch once every week. So, but they're position players. They get the job done. And I think my problem with Tampa, the stadium, you guys haven't been, it's not in Tampa. It's in St. Pete. And to get to St. Pete from Tampa,
minutes away.
It's a 45-minute bridge to get you there. And it's a nightmare. It took me longer to get from Tampa to St. Pete than it did for me to get from Orlando to Tampa in the first part of my drive. It's a nightmare to get to St. Pete. Nightmare.
Have you ever taken the 7 line to Citi Field?
I have not.
Well, I imagine it's something very similar to that.
So I did that once.
Car just going straight down a rail all the way to Queens.
I did that once. It was an accident. I thought I was going uptown. I ended up going downtown, and I tried to go to a Yankee game. I ended up at Citi Field. That's neither here nor there, but it's a long subway ride.
Queens and the Bronx are not close, so you really made a bad decision.
Well, yeah. I mean, at some point,
it's not
there's
even
no
the
more
same
stops.
line. You go on the 7 to go to Queens. You take the 1.
You take the 4 to get to Yankee Stadium,
or the 4.
Well, I didn't end up at Citi Field. I ended up in the Queens. In the Queens,
I know you went
Queens.
the completely wrong way, but you were also on the completely wrong line.
The king of Queens.
Listen, it was a really bad day. I didn't have my license yet. I only drive to Yankee Stadium now, so.
I would like to take
an
the
$80 Uber. I had to pay an $80 Uber to get to Yankee Stadium from Queens.
See, that's not that bad.
Why don't you just go back on the train? Go the other way.
The train stopped.
No, but then you take another train, go the other way.
By the time we got to the Yankee Stadium, it was the third inning already. I wasn't doing that.
That's fair.
I
How
bought
long was the
tickets.
Uber? It was $80, but how long was it?
It was like a 40-minute ride. It was a long
Oh
ride.
my god.
It was
That's right.
terrible.
That's in New York City, I guess 40 minutes isn't terrible in
No,
the
it was
car.
terrible. It was terrible.
Did you like your Uber driver at least?
No, that's a different story for a time when we're not on the air.
Okay. Sounds good.
Bad day.
But going back to Tampa, Scott, they just you got to be envious if you're a team that kind of struggles to win and they have more financial resources than the Rays do, that the Rays keep winning and these other teams don't.
Yeah, they do a great job at recognizing talent in other organizations and finding a way to get them. Some homegrown talent in Kiermaier, Brandon Lau, Willie Adames, and Blake Snell, but they traded Chris Archer to the Pirates and got Austin Meadows and Tyler Glasnow back. An
Terrible
absolute
trade.
steal. They went out and got Hunter Renfroe this offseason, a guy who hit 30-plus home runs last year for the Padres, and they gave up Tommy Pham, who's
I think they got Margot too, which
and
is
they
a
got
solid
Margot
prospect.
as well. They find a way every year, and their bullpen is just a bunch of random dudes that know how to play. They got that Nick Anderson guy from the Marlins last year for nothing. They're always going to be an interesting team, and they're going to find a way to compete. They've moved out of that stage of just being absolute terrible, non-competitive baseball into a team that's going to be there. They're just that annoying little brother that's going to just get on your nerves all the time and just find a way to hang around.
Yeah, they're 19-11. They are a half game ahead of the Yankees in terms of games, but their percentage points, they're 633. The Yankees are 640. That's because the Yankees haven't played. The Rays currently are playing the Orioles, I believe.
They won today already.
They won? Damn.
Or they're winning.
Bottom of the eighth. 4-2 Rays.
What are you going to do? So, yeah, that's definitely one of the teams that the Yankees have to look at and say that's a team that could stand in our way of the World Series. You got them, the Twins, the Oakland Athletics. You got to assume if Verlander comes back and the Astros make the playoffs because everyone makes the playoffs, they're still dangerous. So much more competition in the American League than there in the National League. As we said, the National League only has 4 teams that are above 500. Let's move on to winners and losers. Scott, you want to go first on winners and losers?
Sure, I'll go. My winner of the week is Jose Abreu. Monster week for the White Sox. He contributed 7 of those 27 home runs and had 15 RBIs, I think, in that stretch. Huge week for him, just absolutely crushing the ball. My loser of the week is Jose Alvarez, taking a 105-mile-an-hour line drive to the junk, and is now on the IL with a testicular contusion.
But that's not his fault.
No, but
He
it's just
definitely lost, though.
He's
he
definitely
definitely lost.
loser of the
He
week.
But
lost.
if you're the loser of the week, in my opinion, it's your fault.
No, it could be unfortunate.
That's just like bad
events
luck.
as well.
Sucks.
Yeah, bad luck that was really painful, and he probably, lost something along the way. Hopefully he's okay. Hopefully the Phillies get him back. But he's my loser of the week
That was
because I
ugly.
can't imagine going through that pain.
Jose Abreu, solid. He's still, we all talk about the White Sox with Roberts and Jimenez and Moncada, but he's kind of become the older statesman, which is crazy because we remember when he first came up, and I think he hit 50 home runs his second year or so. But, the White Sox, they really made a statement against the Cubs. The Cubs are probably the best team in the National League right now. They're 18-10. No, I'm sorry, the second best team, obviously the Dodgers, 18-10. They really said, hey, we're a good team too. So props to the White Sox for what they did over the weekend. Cash, what are your winners and losers?
My loser of the week's Jay Happ. What a fucking moron. That guy sucks. I want him off the team.
Who was
I
your
want him off
loser
my city.
before J Happ?
Doesn't matter. He's my loser now. He's my loser for eternity.
You didn't have one prepared. I'm calling you out on it.
No, I did. It was Jose Altuve.
He's
lot of
a loser
Jose's
every
getting
week.
thrown out here.
With that being said, my winner of the week is Alex Cashman. Because
Yourself?
Yes, because
I don't think
said
that's
it at
allowed.
I'm making it allowed. I said at the beginning of the season, and I got a lot of shit for it. I said that Jose Altuve has to prove to me that he could hit without cheating, and he hasn't done that. So I win.
Okay, what are your thoughts on the Red Sox coming in second place this year?
Okay, so I win some, I lose some, but I'm calling out my wins.
All right. I hope you're never a winner ever again. Go ahead, Ty.
Thank you, Glenn.
So my winner of the week is going to be Kenta Maeda. It's about a week old because the night we recorded, he threw 8 no-hit innings, gave up his first hit in the top of the 9th. I think it was against Oakland. I don't know. I might be right, might be wrong. I don't know. But no, it was against Atlanta. I don't know. Regardless, he threw 8. Kenta Maeda.
Maeda played he plays on the Twins, so it was
who was the no-hitter against?
It was a Central team. Was it
Milwaukee.
the Indians?
Oh, it was Milwaukee.
Milwaukee? Okay.
Yeah. He threw 8 no-hit innings. I was really pulling for him. I thought it'd be pretty cool to get a no-hitter under the belt of the 60-game season, but it didn't happen. And my loser is going to be Joe Madden because he got ejected in the past week. The Angels are 2-8 in their last 10. I feel like he thought he was coming into a much better situation than he is. Nothing specific happened over the past week, but it's just kind of starting to come to fruition that the Angels are not a good baseball team.
6-0 right now.
Yeah, they lost earlier today to the Astros. So,
they had
They had a doubleheader today.
All right. Well, I'm glad Ty said that because my losers are the Angels. This team's 9-22, and it's just a mess. And it's a shame because it shouldn't be this way. And poor Mike Trout. I mean, it's not really poor Mike Trout. I mean, he did choose to stay there long term, but it's embarrassing. They have no pitching. They throw money at offensive guys like Rendon and Shohei, and who always gets hurt and can't pitch. And obviously they have Albert Pujols. And Pujols, congratulations to him. He passed A-Rod on the RBI list. So that's something of a positive for the Angels. But really the only thing this season, the team sucks. And it's a shame because baseball and baseball fans deserve Mike Trout in the playoffs. And it seems like that organization just they can't do it. And we talked about the Rays and how they're a smart market club and they continue to win and find players and get pitching and find a way, scratch and claw, to compete with the Yankees of all teams. The Angels can't do that. It doesn't make sense to me that a Los Angeles, Anaheim market can't figure it out. So the Angels are my loser. My winner is the team that we started off the episode with, and that's the Padres, 7-game win streak. Probably the most exciting team to watch right now in baseball. So that's my winners and losers. And before I wrap things up, is there anything you guys would like to say or forever hold your peace?
The Phillies need to sign JT Realmuto.
Okay, Cash, you're laughing at me. Why are you laughing at me?
It's for off the air. It's for off the air. Just sign off.
It's for off the air?
I'm not
All right,
laughing
so
at
I'm
you.
going to sign off, and then I'll figure this out. That'll just do it for this episode of Base Hit Ball 4. Tune in next week when we will discuss more of the trade deadline that is quickly approaching. For Scott Roswald, Alex Cashman, and Tyler Blumenstick, my name is Glenn Denegris. We'll see you next time.